You're watching Saluting Our Veterans, a WENY News special presentation. Brought to you by Aaron's Heating and Air Conditioning in Corning, New York.
Hello and welcome to a WENY News special presentation, Saluting Our Veterans. I'm Renata Stiehl. We're taking this opportunity to showcase the veterans in our community, thank them, and show how the community supported them throughout the year. All year long, communities and organizations across the Twin Tiers have worked to give thanks to our veterans in many different ways. Most recently, hundreds of volunteers from across the Twin Tiers honored veterans who are laid to rest. Wreaths Across America has a mission to honor and remember American service members who've passed away in a special way during the holiday season. Each December, people place evergreen wreaths at the graves in national cemeteries as a way to pay tribute to those who are no longer with us. WENY's Alicia Solorzano takes us there.
As a way to honor people who served this holiday season, hundreds of people volunteered in Bath and Elmira for Wreaths Across America. Some say it's an important way to learn how to honor service members, and for others, it hits closer to home.
My daughter and I come up. My daughter was a Marine also back in the early 2000s, and we come up to honor all of the veterans with a wreath. And I also have a brother who didn't die in combat, but he was a veteran and is buried here. We get a special wreath for him and drop it on his grave.
Volunteers across the country, like Beach and his daughter Diana Lewis, make Wreaths Across America possible. Between the Woodlawn National Cemetery in Elmira and the Bath National Cemetery, over 8,500 wreaths were laid on the graves of fallen soldiers and veterans in the Southern Tier.
My uncle was one of my heroes. All of my uncles have served in some branch in one form or another, whether reserve or active. To be able to go over to his grave and thank him, it's just one more way I can remind him that we love him even though he's not here.
After a brief ceremony, volunteers grabbed a wreath and carefully placed it on a headstone, giving each soldier a salute or hand to their heart.
When a veteran dies, his name is never said again, and now they're not remembered. So now when we lay the wreaths, we step back, we say their name, so they'll never be forgotten.
People of all ages and backgrounds gave up their time to place wreaths on the graves of veterans. While the Wreaths Across America event happens on a designated day, people can still place wreaths at any time during the holiday season. The gesture of laying a wreath may seem small, but it serves as a reminder to honor veterans all year round. Reporting in Bath, I'm Alicia Solorzano, WENY News.
There are thousands of service members laid to rest at Woodlawn National Cemetery in Elmira, but for one person recently interred there, the journey to his final resting place is a bit of a mystery. A donation to a local museum set in motion plans to give the deceased soldier and airman the service he deserved.
A box dropped off at the Vietnam War Museum in Elmira included something no one expected. Among papers, postcards, and photos, the cremains of a Victor Dare who passed away in 1998.
We opened the box to go through to see exactly what was there, and lo and behold, we found his remains. That's when we had to act upon it.
There are few clues about Mr. Dare's life in the box. Military paperwork shows he served in the U.S. Army from 1946 to 1950, and then the Air Force from 1950 to 1954. With no known family, members of the Vietnam Veterans of America Chapter 803 knew what they had to do, setting in motion plans to have Dare interred at Woodlawn National Cemetery.
We had to make sure that he had the burial he deserved after 26 years of being in a box. You know, we had to come to this national cemetery, and for me it was an honor to help with the burial of one of our brothers. The old order has passed away. Welcome him into paradise, where there will be no sorrow, no weeping, or pain.
26 years after his death, Dare is now among the service members in eternal rest at Woodlawn National Cemetery. Though without family, he was far from alone at today's service.
I just felt the need to be here because I don't think any veteran should be buried alone. That's just sending chills up my spine even saying that. But
Dare's memory now lives on, thanks to the local veterans who stepped in to support a fellow brother in arms.
I've been doing military honors now for over 13 years, and I've done hundreds and hundreds of funerals. But when you're on the other side, receiving a flag of the deceased, it's very emotional, very moving. I felt honored and privileged to do this.
Each year on November 11th, our nation takes a moment to pause and honor those who served. Lindsay Madison takes us to Veterans Day ceremonies held in Elmira this year, recognizing those who answered our nation's call.
What is a veteran? If you ask most people, it's someone who served in one of the U.S. Armed Forces. For some, it means much more.
Veterans raised their right hand, took an oath, and served this country. Veterans know the meaning of the word service, and they know the meaning of the word sacrifice.
One girl who came to pay her respects says she's grateful for her uncles who served in the military.
They mean to me a lot. I love how they joined the Army to save our country.
During and after the Vietnam War, people had a different perception of service members. Sherman says it took people 30 years to thank him for his service. He encourages people when they see a veteran to be sure to thank them.
We sacrifice time away from family, and a lot of them sacrificed their life. So for that, we meet here today to thank all veterans for all they've done.
Sherman is also part of the Vietnam Veterans of America Chapter 803. Even though his time in the service is years behind him, he continues to service his community by helping give other vets the military burials they deserve.
I've heard taps played 1,000 times, and every time it plays, it resounds in my heart, and you can't stop but think about who this person was and what he gave.
When we return, we're looking back at a special event that took place in the Northern Tier in July. We'll share a traveling tribute to our Vietnam veterans that aims to bring healing to communities across the country.
You're watching Saluting Our Veterans. We'll return in just a moment. Welcome back to Saluting Our Veterans, brought to you by Aaron's Heating and Air Conditioning in Corning, New York.
This past July, Tioga, Pennsylvania welcomed the Moving Wall, a half-size replica of the National Vietnam War Memorial in Washington, D.C. The wall welcomed thousands of visitors during the 5 days it was at Williamson High School. But it wasn't the only traveling tribute to those who served in the Vietnam War there. The event welcomed the touchdown of a restored Vietnam combat helicopter called the Huey. It's a sound Vietnam veterans say they won't soon forget, no matter how many years have gone by. The distinct thumping noise of the blades of the UH-1H Iroquois, best known as the Huey.
This is the UH-1H. It is the iconic aircraft from Vietnam. Anybody that was in Vietnam, certainly in the Army, and probably the Air Force, Navy, and maybe the Marine Corps, because they had some other types of aircraft, flew in one at least once.
This particular aircraft served in combat in Vietnam. More than 50 years later, it's a flying museum restored and maintained by the Liberty Warbird Association.
Our mission and motto is honor, educate, and restore. We're here to honor the veterans. We're here to educate the public about Vietnam, how America got involved, what the veterans did over there, how they were treated when they came back, and then restore initially meant restoring this aircraft. But we've expanded that now to restore the honor and dignity of the Vietnam veterans, the men and women. And there were women over there, mostly nurses, but there were others, to restore their honor and dignity.
For the Vietnam veterans who watched the Huey land, a symbolic reminder of their time in service, each with their own specific memories attached, but thankful to see it one more time.
It brings back memories, but this is a lot better. It's great that these guys would do this.
And the moving wall aims to bring the traveling tribute to the lives lost during the Vietnam War to communities, allowing Vietnam veterans and the families of those who never made it home to see it in person. For many, they may never get the opportunity to visit the wall in Washington, D.C. Alicia Solorzano tells us more about how impactful the wall can be for everyone.
While the moving wall is a Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C., a replica traveling the country is giving people a chance to visit it locally and honor those who served. People are now flooding Williamson High School because of what the wall means to them.
Bringing the moving wall back to Tioga County, Pennsylvania allows us to pay our respects and honor these Vietnam veterans that never got the appropriate welcome home that they should have received when they came back. So it is our way to pay tribute and to honor them.
Many veterans don't have the capabilities to go to D.C., so the traveling wall provides them with the chance to reflect and acknowledge those they served with.
People should be understand how we lost the troop over there, how father, mother, brother, sister not come home. We supposed to be respect, honor them, and learn history. We never ever forget history. History, that's very important. Yeah, that's why I will plead. Come and take a look at the wall.
Along with the display, readers took turns saying each individual's name that was up on the wall.
Franklin Thomas Collins.
Veterans and organizers hope that the wall and everything that accompanies it will help to pass on the history and legacy of the war and those who served in it.
It's so important so that to educate our youth so they can gain a significant piece of American history so that they are not forgotten.
As you can see, there are plenty of people behind me who have gotten the chance to pay their respects at the wall today and talk about what it means to them. People can continue to do so for the next few days until the wall leaves on July 15th. For now, reporting from Tioga, I'm Alicia Solorzano, WENY News.
When we come back, caring for our veterans in the years after their service is of the utmost importance, and the Bath VA has been doing it for centuries. And a local march helps show veterans who are struggling that they are not alone. We'll be right back.
You're watching Saluting Our Veterans. We'll return in just a moment.
Welcome back to Saluting Our Veterans. Thousands of veterans across the region depend on the Bath VA Medical Center for care. The VA sits on a historic property in Steuben County and even has its own museum. And it now has some new additions in its collection thanks to a VA employee and the veterans she's helped. Tucked back on the campus near the National Cemetery sits a museum showcasing military and medical artifacts dating from the Civil War through modern day.
We're trying to show not just what happens in the war, but how this place was founded and how healthcare has changed to meet the veterans' needs in the time since 1879 when we opened.
What was once the New York State Soldiers and Sailors Home is now the Bath VA Medical Center. The museum on the property educates visitors on the monumental effort to establish the home after the Civil War, while honoring those who served in every conflict since and the medical care they received.
The museum as a whole is such a reflection of the local community, the veterans that have served, and kind of wrapping it all together here at the VA.
At one end of the hall is a room dedicated to the Gulf War through the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. There are many new additions to this room, thanks to program manager Dawn Smith. Through more than 15 years of working with post-9/11 veterans, she's amassed quite a collection, mementos from veteran service and gifts of gratitude.
I started with walls like this that have their signatures on it because I wanted them to stay a part of this VA forever, regardless of where their travels may take them. They will always be a part of this VA and an important part of this VA.
From challenge coins, patches, photographs, artwork, books, and more, Dawn is donating these items to the VA to carry on the legacy of the veterans who came through her doors.
It will be hard to leave it behind, but these are some of the strongest and funniest and kindest and hard-headed veterans I've ever met in my life, and they have truly impacted me.
The museum is entirely staffed by volunteers and is scheduled to be open from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday, but staff say it's always a good idea to call ahead before paying a visit. And in Tioga County, New York, the Veterans Service Agency hosted its 5K Ruck March for Them earlier in September in Waverly. The goal is to honor veterans and service members who lost their lives to suicide, as well as provide resources to veterans and active duty personnel who may be in need of support. WENY's Connor Freidoff reports.
Every day in the United States, 22 veterans and military service members will take their own lives. In order to raise awareness of veteran suicide, many came out to Waverly Glen Park to take part in the 5K Ruck for Them March, where participants complete the journey with a backpack containing 22 pounds of weight to represent the lives lost every day to veteran suicide.
Well, many of our veterans, we teach our men and women how to go to war, we don't teach them how to come home. And when they come home, oftentimes they have mental health challenges, physical health challenges, substance use disorders. They feel disconnected. They've lost their purpose and their way. They isolate, they silo. Events like this that we do throughout the year is trying to get them out, getting reconnected with like-minded folks.
According to the nonprofit organization Stop Soldiers Suicide, veterans remain at a 72% higher risk of suicide than those who have not served. Several support groups were at the march today to offer services to those in need at an information fair adjacent to the march.
There's a lot of places out there where people can get with you and talk with you. And sometimes it's just having a conversation with somebody who's gone through it to prevent you from going through the same thing. I don't want anybody to have to go through what I've gone through.
Organizers and attendees at today's march encourage veterans looking for help and direction to reach out to their local veteran service offices and know that they are never alone in their struggles. Volunteer opportunities exist within the Onward Ops Military Transition Program, geared toward helping veterans readjust to civilian life. In Waverly, I'm Connor Freidoff for WENY News.
You're watching Saluting Our Veterans. We'll return in just a moment.
We close out our program with an interview from WENY's series, Vietnam Reflections. Since 2022, we have sat down with dozens of Vietnam veterans from across the Twin Tiers, giving them the platform to share the stories of their service during the Vietnam War. Our final interview of 2024 was with helicopter pilot Frank Youngworth of Tioga County, Pennsylvania. Frank logged more than 2,000 hours of combat flying in Vietnam, providing critical support and rescue to troops on the ground. After his time in the service, he later became a beloved history teacher in the Wellsboro Area School District and actively involved in the veterans community in Tioga County. He was a featured speaker at the closing ceremony at the Moving Wall in Tioga in July, sharing a heartfelt speech and memories of those who didn't come home. Sadly, Frank passed away on November 9th and will be buried in March in Arlington National Cemetery. We'd like to dedicate this program in Frank's memory. Here's his story.
Draft started they started building up around 64, 65. And of course, got out of high school, and we all got caught up in a draft. At the time, the recruiters were sharing, you know, the information when they're getting these kids back. And the Army recruiter came in and he says, "Hey, Frank, we got your reports back. You know, you qualify for flight school." I said, "Duh. Yeah, what's that?" He says, "How would you like to be a helicopter pilot?" And I thought to myself for a minute, I can't even spell helicopter. What the hell is this? He said, if your scores are high enough, they have a new program for guys right out of high school to go into a flight program in the Army. We knew we were all going to Vietnam. That was a given. And helicopter pilots especially, they were all going to Vietnam. You have to be a certain psychological makeup because from the day you get in country, you're going to be in combat. Those people on the ground, the infantry they were ours. They were my people down there. And if they needed ammunition, if they needed water, if they needed whatever they needed gun support, our job was to see that they got it. I was shot down 7 times, and I walked away from 6 of them. The last one, they had to carry me out. Somebody asked me one time, what do you do when you get shot at? Keep on flying. What else you gotta do? There's no place to run, there's no holes to hide in, and you're only going, 60, 70 miles an hour. You're not gonna outrun a bullet. You just keep on flying. But like I said, they flew us hard, but we knew it. That was the job. Helicopter pilots had 140% Purple Heart rate. Some guys got back without 1. Some guys got back 4 or 5. Nothing ever happens in a vacuum. Somebody asked me once, said, do you regret anything that you've done? I said, no, not up, even to this day. It's been a hell of an adventure.
And before we say goodbye, we'd like to thank our show's sponsor, veteran-owned Aaron's Heating and Air Conditioning of Corning, New York. Owner Aaron Long proudly served in the U.S. Army on active duty from 2008 to 2013. During his time in the service, he completed 2 tours of duty in Iraq and left the service at the rank of corporal. We'd like to thank Aaron for his service and his support of this program.
Thanks for watching Saluting Our Veterans. Brought to you by Aaron's Heating and Air Conditioning in Corning, New York. This has been a WENY News special presentation.